Members, I wish to advise that former Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Sir James Mitchell, is seated in the Speaker's gallery. And he will observe today's proceedings. I wish on behalf of all honourable members of the House and on my own behalf to warmly welcome Sir James Mitchell to our Parliament. Honourable members, we have learnt of the sad passing of the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Barbados, the Honourable David John Howard Thompson, on Saturday, October the 23rd, 2010. I now invite honourable members to pay tribute. Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable David John Howard Thompson belonged to a new era of CARICOM leaders. He was born in 1961, at a time that several Caribbean countries were negotiating political independence. David Thompson was destined to be among the second wave of post-colonial regional leaders. Indeed, he was born in the year that Errol Barrow was made Premier of Barbados. Mr. Barrow was later to become Mr. Thompson's political mentor. On hindsight, it appears as though Mr. Thompson was nurtured for leadership. He honed his intellectual and public speaking capacities at both primary and secondary schools, and indeed at the University of the West Indies, where we were fellow students together in the Faculty of Law. He did this in his native land and bolstered his self-confidence and social consciousness in succeeding years. Even as a young man, he was respected for his activism, political insight, and oratory skills. And so it was not surprising that he became a leading light of the youth arm of the Democratic Labour Party. Mr. Thompson joined the cabinet of his country as far back as 1991, and from there he made steady ministerial progress because of his acclaimed knowledge, commitment to public duty, and capacity for hard work. In addition to his ministerial duties, he also served as General Secretary of his party. He served as opposition leader during what has turned out to be a virtual whirlwind political career, Mr. Speaker. He became the 6th Prime Minister of Barbados 2 years ago, at age 46, and he immediately unveiled a vision for meaningful Caribbean unity and for effective and sustainable responses to such pressing concerns as drugs transshipment, the small arms trade, and the cementing of the CSME. David Thompson had begun to emerge as a progressive CARICOM leader, a man of the times, a Prime Minister with a purpose. Mr. Speaker, regrettably, Mr. Thompson was unable to fully deliver on his abundant promise, having been cut down in the prime of life by a deadly disease. Prime Minister Thompson's premature death is a sad and unjust blow to the Caribbean community, a huge loss to a region affirming its place in a modern, fast-evolving world. Mr. Speaker, all of Trinidad and Tobago mourns the passing of Mr. Thompson. And so on behalf of the government and people of Trinidad and Tobago, I extend deepest condolences to the government and people of Barbados, and especially to his wife, Mara, and the children. Also in my capacity as Chair in Office of the Commonwealth, I extend on behalf of the Commonwealth leaders our condolences to the government and the people of Barbados and to the family of the Honourable David Thompson. We assure them all that here the loss is felt as sharply in Port of Spain as in Bridgetown, and comfort them with the fact that Prime Minister Thompson's work would be his timeless legacy. The region is indeed poorer for the passing of Mr. David Thompson. And may I say, I had the opportunity to interact with him on a personal level as colleagues in the law faculty and then in the Hewitting Law School. And throughout the time that I've known him as a colleague, as a fellow student, and then as a fellow lawyer, he was always a person who distinguished himself in community service and in his care and passion for the people. Indeed, the government of Trinidad and Tobago will be represented, and our people of Trinidad and Tobago will be represented at the funeral on Wednesday. May his soul rest in peace. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, I rise to associate myself and those of us on this side with all the sentiments expressed by the Honourable Prime Minister on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago on this very sad occasion. Unlike the Prime Minister, I did not have a lot of contact with David Thompson. My contact has been very brief. But in those fleeting conversations, Mr. Speaker, one could not have but noticed the quiet strength and gentleness of a man who was supremely confident in his ability. And, Mr. Speaker, whenever a young person dies, the pain of death becomes even greater to bear. And in the case of David Thompson, he held out such great promise for us in the Caribbean, a promise of providing us with Caribbean leadership of a kind that we had become accustomed to, especially from Barbados, that his death came as a shock. Even though we knew that he was facing serious health challenges, Mr. Speaker, we somehow still held out some hope that there would be some form of recovery. And that is why his death is so painful to us here in Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm sure far greater for the people of Barbados. Mr. Thompson had indicated in his short career as leader of Barbados, even while being opposition leader, that he stood for all that CARICOM represented and that he was an integrationist. And he held out that promise of being a leader who could contribute to the progress of all of us here in the region. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Thompson was a lawyer, and we tend to associate lawyers with boisterousness. We tend to associate politicians with aggression. David Thompson was none of that. He was, in fact, a gentleman, a very gentle person, big in stature, strong in spirit. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of all of us on this side, we want to say that we feel the pain of the people of Barbados. We would miss him. We feel as though there was a promise of something great to come from this well-prepared gentleman. But at the end of the day, God knows best. And Mr. Speaker, we extend our condolences especially to his family, his immediate family, wife and children, and also to his parents, who would be feeling a very special pain of having to put away a child. Parents should not have to bury children. But when it occurs, Mr. Speaker, the pain is doubly strong. So from us on this side, the PNM and the opposition and the people of Trinidad and Tobago, we extend our deepest sympathy to the family, the associates and the people of Barbados and the people of the Caribbean who are now poorer for the passing of one of our gentle sons. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Sanford and the West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, I choose to break my parliamentary silence to pay tribute to somebody with whom I have had a very close association ever since his accession to the exalted office of Prime Minister of Barbados. Mr. Speaker, I recall that when he was elected to office, the very first country to which he was invited to pay an official visit was indeed Trinidad and Tobago, and I recall that in making preparations for that visit, we held him in such high esteem that we thought that we would give him the kind of reception, the likes of which he will never experience in his life again from any other country. We are certain that we achieved that, even if we did not expect that his experience would have been as short as it has turned out to be. Mr. David Thompson, Mr. Speaker, was very easy to get along with. It was very easy, it was very straightforward, not complicated at all, and in fact a pleasure with which to work. And it was always a pleasure for me to be associated with him in the institutions of the Caribbean where we were closely associated and where we had to discuss a number of issues in respect of which Barbados held as keen an interest as the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. I have a special sympathy for him also, Mr. Speaker, seeing that he passed away as a result of his exposure to a bout of cancer. As you know, Mr. Speaker, 2 years ago, I had exposure to cancer myself, and well, the matter was dealt with expeditiously, and I'm pleased to say to members of this honourable House that I am completely recovered from it, and I don't expect it will recur. Mr. Thompson was not as similarly circumstanced. And therefore, as he passes, I know that it is going to be a great loss, not just to his family and his wife and family, to whom we extend a very sincere condolences, but to the people of Barbados. The people of Barbados will experience on this occasion a very great loss, and we would like them to know, as my leader has said, that they have the sympathies of the people of the PNM and those on the side of the House, and I'm sure the people of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
I wish to join with honourable members in expressing my deepest condolences to the wife and daughters of the late Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Barbados, the Honourable David John Howard Thompson. It is very evident from remarks made here today that former Prime Minister Thompson was a man of destiny, a man with a vision for his country and his people, a vision which, in spite of serious health challenges, he pursued with a passion. I too share the sentiments expressed by honourable members on the life and work of this great fallen Caribbean leader. I have therefore directed the Clerk of the House to write a letter of condolence to Mrs. Marie Josephine Mara Thompson and her daughters, and include the transcripts of tributes paid to the late Prime Minister by members of this Honourable House. I now invite all honourable members to stand and observe 1 minute silence in memory of the late David John Thompson. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you, honourable members.